Truthfully, what happens is, as children grow up, we start to educate them progressively from the waist up. And then we focus on their heads and slightly to one side.
I think in the old days, you were better off. Because nowadays, they're all specialists. Everyone's becoming better and better. And less and less. And eventually someone's going to be superb. Like nothing.
Our education system has mined our minds in the way that we've strip mined the earth for a particular commodity. And for the future, it won't serve us. We have to rethink the fundamental principles on which we're educating our children.
We're not here to tell everybody that they're wrong and we're right. We're not saying that we have all the answers, but we'd like to present a different way of looking at it.
Hello listeners, festive spirit abounds and welcome to episode 44, may I add, of the China Jeducation Education Focus series. And well, we've got a real Christmas special for you, although if you're listening to this and it's not Christmas, it's still superly special, if I can use those superlatives. And we have a special guest with us today, and none other than Alex Eldridge Toll.
Hello there.
Yes, and Alex, for you listening, is a colleague of mine in our new teaching positions. And Alex sits literally about 1.5 meters opposite me, don't you, Alex?
Yeah, you're not wrong there.
And of course, with school still out at the moment and our actual new school still being built, we are spending a lot of time in the office. And this fantastic thing happened, listeners. Essentially, Alex was talking as normal about a load of rubbish, and then suddenly came up with a question. And the question was quite an interesting one. I had 4 answers, and we asked the question. I was like, we didn't know, and we got it wrong. And then I said, where did you get that from? And he said it's from the gapminder.org website.
Yeah, just found it by chance. Completely shocked by how some of the questions are.
Yeah, and I mean, we're framing this podcast, why I wanted to do it, around how ignorant you are. Not how ignorant you are, but how ignorant a lot of the listeners are, and even myself at times, how ignorant I can be. And so these questions that we're going to lay on for you today, listeners, we're going to go through the questions, and you can play with us as well, see if you get the answers right, and then we'll do a little digression and talk about the stuff that comes from it. And let me just give you a little bit, Alex, because I was asking you, wasn't I, about Gapminder? You, of course, showed us it, and then I thought you might know everything about it. Of course, you don't. But it's an independent Swedish foundation with no political, religious, or economic affiliations, and it basically fights devastating misconceptions and promotes a fact-based worldview everyone can understand. Now, in today's world where we are, coming to the end of 2020, 2021, finding the truth is very difficult. So I can see the benefits of this.
Absolutely. Certainly how some of the questions are worded, it's sort of it's quite nice actually. Certainly in the couple of questions that we've done prior to this, I'm already finding myself clearly having sort of low expectations of humanity, because it's sort of, when we think about whether it be poverty or whatever, clearly we have actually come a long ways over the last 10, 20 years, if that.
Yeah, and I mean, as I said, we're framing it around ignorance. I think a lot of us, myself included, do think we're almost a little bit too intelligent than what we really are. Especially the teachers out there, of course, seem to think they know absolutely everything, and that's why they're teachers, although you could go the other way with that. But essentially, the mission of this podcast, as it is for Gapminder, is to fight devastating ignorance with fact-based worldviews everyone can understand. And what I want to say before we get into the questions is that the questions are framed around, and I don't know if you know these, listeners, but the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and which are basically a collection of 17 interlinked goals designed to be a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for us all. And, whatever you think about the United Nations, and I see the logo here, it's like lots of rainbow colours coming across in all directions at the moment into our psyche. But they have one too. The O is a rainbow O. It almost looks like a virus shots up there. Anyway, but moving on from that, I do quite like the colourful 17 goals. I'm not going to go through them now, but just note, listeners, that as we go through the sections, and I think there's 6 questions to each section, that these are based around these 17 goals. So you can check that out at any time you want, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So Alex, shall we get stuck in?
I'm excited, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you've got your spade, and Alex is going to do a little bit of digging. Alex is going to actually host and do the questions first. And the first section is around what, Alex?
Poverty.
Okay, so a big one. A big one. So this is the poverty section, listeners. So questions will be framed around this subject. Take it away, Alex. Enough for me.
So, in 1980, roughly 40% of the world's population lived in extreme poverty, with less than $2 per day. What is the share? What is the share today? 10%, 30%, or 50%?
Okay, so I don't know, but many listeners might have completely not heard that question. I certainly, being quite ignorant, went straight through me. You, of course, being a mathematician, may have got all those numbers in your head. But again, what's the question again? Something about how poverty's changed.
What is the percentage of the world's population in extreme poverty? Where it is, where they're earning sort of less than $2 a day.
Okay, oh dear.
So in the 80s, it was 40%.
Yeah.
And your choices are 10%, 30%, or 50%.
Now, yeah?
Correct.
10%?
I would think so, yeah.
The options are 10%?
10%, 30%, and 50%.
And in the 80s it was?
40%. I think 10% is logical, but the issue I'm thinking about is, given... It depends, obviously, on whether this was taken pre-COVID or post-COVID. If it was pre-COVID...
don't get clever now. we don't need that kind of cleverness on this podcast. Again, it's 10% or...
30%.
Or...
50%.
Okay, so it must have got better. So we
can
surmise
hope,
that.
yes.
So it's either 10% or 30%, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say...
You're going to go for 10?
I'm going to go for 10.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to go for 30 because however you put this, I still see people on the streets.
Yeah.
I still see mass problems pre-COVID. So let's not dress this all up with pink candy floss. Give us the answer. What is the answer? You say 10%, I say 30.
So, 30 was incorrect. It was 10%.
It was 10%.
So apparently 92% of the people who did the survey did get it wrong.
Wow, that is interesting.
So, during the past 40 years, the drop in extreme poverty rate was the fastest ever. Very few noted, probably because of the probability inequality became wider than ever.
Right.
So, I mean, I can understand a bit where that's coming from, because if we think, seeing as we are in China at the moment, largest percentage population of the world. Certainly, if we were to say 40 years ago, I could see that to be quite a high number. You could understand if China was a sort of a larger percentage of that. But obviously nowadays, China has actually done very well for its economy and actually bringing nearly 2 billion people out of poverty, hasn't it?
Yeah, and these statistics down, yeah?
Exactly that. And we also then think about how this has sort of gone across the rest of the world, work that's been done in Africa and South America.
May I just make a little devil's advocate note here, as I'm sure those listening in might be thinking too. We go on about facts and finding the truth.
Yeah.
We also have to be aware, do we not, that Gapminder, okay, it's non-religious, it's not backed by any political party, but where are they getting their information from as well? And
Absolutely.
So I think with all this, we have to take it with a little pinch of Himalayan pink salt. That maybe we are still jumbling around with statistics, as a lot of these COVIDian type numbers seem to be interplaying with each other too. So the point is, if I can take it in a very conclusive macro view, the world is getting better in the fact that people on the breadline, they are earning more and their quality of life is going up. That's what we should potentially conclude from that,
Correct.
Since the 80s. Okay, so
I think
30%, 10%, only 10% of people live on under $2 a day. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Well,
I would be curious to know a bit more about that, because obviously the value, obviously where they're using dollars,
Yes.
sort of a good level of consistency, I'd be curious to know whether that takes into account of the value of the dollar over the years. Cost of living's changed. I'm splitting hairs.
No, I think we are, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because we are going to be able to, how do we say, cut this down in many possible ways. Yeah. But the macro view is that poverty is getting better. It's around this United Nations goal of cutting out poverty by some year in the future. So let's move on, shall we? Interesting one, Alex. Go for question number 2.
So, how many countries of the 195 countries in the world, how many countries have some form of social security benefits for people with disabilities?
Ooh,
so,
right.
Out of 195 countries,
right,
either 43, 113, or 183.
Wow. So the choice answer will be the amount of countries that have benefits, social benefits for disabled people.
Correct.
Okay. So got a pretty developed society that's, got people eating everything, and we got stuff on the plate and roof on our heads.
Yes.
To the point now where we have these brilliant systems to help the disadvantaged.
Yes. While obviously, I think it's fair to say that while the technology is out there, it's more so making sure that there is funding behind the government, and also the variety of services required, because some people obviously need care, etc.
Yeah.
It's.
Then
again, it says some form.
Okay.
So,
these are good questions, and like when you hit me with the one in the office, I haven't really thought about it, to be honest.
Absolutely.
And so, listeners, we don't know the answers to these, so we're really just, and I'm hearing this for the first time.
Yeah.
I would say out of 100 and how many countries?
195.
Okay, 195. It's got to be more than half.
So if it's more than half out of the 3 options, so you think maybe 113?
Yeah, because the one's above that, right? The other one. That's
So,
far too positive, I think.
Yeah, so it was 43. So about 45%.
Yeah.
113, so that's 55, 60%. And then 183 out of 195. I think you're right. I think 113 sounds reasonable, but at the same time...
Hang on, the researchers are just in my ear. You're a mathematician, right?
Yeah.
How many countries are there?
195.
You just said the first option of 44
43
was about 45, 50%.
40% thereabouts. I've probably
of 195. The researchers are just saying, just check the mathematician there. Yeah, okay, we got sweat coming down the face now, listeners. Yeah, there was a little Christmas mistake there on my birthday. Wonderful. Okay, so should we go with that together then on this?
I think 113 then.
So is that B?
That was B.
Okay,
yeah.
so B 130. Let's go. How many places are giving stuff to the disadvantaged? Oh no.
So we were both wrong. It is actually the 183.
Wow. Okay.
That's mad. We think that little of the world.
Yes, that is interesting. And that's quite amazing as well. But as you said, it could be any form, couldn't it? So maybe a few ramps, for example, for wheelchair access would be a country that's got some systems in place.
Exactly that.
Okay.
There's a wide variety. Because, disability doesn't necessarily have to be as simple as a wheelchair. What about those who are visually impaired, hearing impaired, mute, etc.?
Are you looking to further your career in education? Teach Now offers a convenient online teacher preparation and master's degree program completed anywhere in the world.
Reach now for Teach Now. Ain't no time for defeat now. Teachers, get off your seats now. Future generations need you now.
Work with people all over the world in a collaborative, activity-based teaching environment.
To learn more, visit teach-now.edu.
Expertise that is really outside of the box.
Does it tell you what countries out of those 195 aren't on that list?
Oh, that's a very good question.
I wonder, what do you reckon it would be? Maybe,
it doesn't specify.
I think Afghanistan would be one of them, or... I've not been to
tough.
Afghanistan. I've not been to downtown Kabul, but I don't know if there's many,
I mean,
helping systems in place.
I'm skimming through it now. There's no list of countries, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, it shows how prepared we are, listeners, as always,
there's
on these podcasts. But that's fine.
Ooh, hang on. So they've not specified. No, they've given sort of notes on the people who have actually, on the countries that have made significant strides in the last few years. Sort of some amazing progress. So places like Brazil, Chile,
good for them.
Mongolia, and Uruguay.
Well done,
they've
Uruguay.
done better, sort of in the recent years to sort of help challenge and make the world better.
The researchers are asking, what country do you think would be in those kind of 6 or 7 that wouldn't have any systems in place? Afghanistan. I came out with there. Sorry to any Afghanis that are listening to this. It's just that I might be wrong.
I think you're along the right line. Certainly, thinking third world countries is going to be where we're thinking.
Might come out with one. Just put your.
Where do I think? I'd probably pick somewhere in Africa.
Okay.
So I could pick anywhere. I could say like Cameroon or something, but I could be completely wrong. I think somewhere. But I'm thinking I reckon African. I certainly think a couple of African countries would be in that mix.
Okay. Right. Well, again, rosier than I would have thought. So
absolutely.
Let's move on. Question 3, Mr. Toll.
On average, how many of those aged 65 or older live below the national poverty lines in high income countries?
Wow, good question.
So on average, how many of those aged 65 or older live below the national poverty lines in high income countries?
Okay.
14%, 29%, or 44%?
Okay, so let's be honest, this shouldn't happen in a developed society. You get to 65 around retirement age, you should be able to retire. You shouldn't be below the poverty line. So poor you, the governments that are creating this situation. I'm going to say it's the least one. It's got to be
14%.
14%.
Yeah.
I just, based on our last few questions, I've got to go with this one. It's got to be rosy for the over 65s.
Yeah, I want to stay optimistic on this. You got to stay optimistic.
Okay, go on then. Hit me.
Oh, thank you. yeah, that's great.
Okay, there you go. Okay, good.
That's good. I do find it quite interesting though. But 14%. That's still
a lot, isn't it?
80% of people who did this survey got it wrong.
Huh.
So that many people have sort of been overestimating.
Yeah.
It's tough because you think about, certainly if we think, obviously, in the UK, my grandparents, they still pay tax. They still pay...
And they do when they die as well.
Like...
Inheritance tax, what's all that about?
Every single bit of tax, income tax...
goes to the Crown, God bless her.
All on just, when they're getting their pension, they've paid tax all their lives.
Yeah.
They've saved up everything for their retirement, and then it's just, we're going to continue taking from it.
Yeah, it's the old hamster in the wheel, isn't it? It just keeps on going. Yeah. And they just change the hamster every so often when we drop off. Right, okay, moving on, nicely and positively. Question number 4, please.
How did the number of deaths per year from natural disasters change over the last 100 years?
Oh gosh, that's a good question.
So how did the number of deaths per year from natural disasters change over the last 100 years? More than double.
Right.
It's remained about the same.
Yeah.
Or decreased by less than half.
I've got to say first, I think we need a full history of what's gone on in the last 100 years. I'm just trying to think, because a lot has gone on.
A lot.
Even we go back to the... Oh, my God, what are we going back here? To the early 19th century here now, aren't we? And gosh, there's been a lot of stuff going on.
19th century?
Early 1900s.
1920s.
Yeah.
20th century. Sorry, I misheard you.
Yeah, just press that button there. It puts an electric shot up his leg. Again, the other thing I'm thinking is, in 1920, did they have an established data system the same of which we have today as well. Okay, I know I'm being
good
pedantic
point.
here, but it's. I mean, what do you think on this one?
I think it's certainly something to consider, and I am curious to know how natural disasters have been recorded, because if we think about the last 100 years when Industrial Revolution and all that stuff has started kicking in, when you think about some of the forest fires, initially, would they have been considered as natural disasters?
Good point.
And then as climate change and all that stuff has kicked in, how soon were we then recording those sort of natural disasters caused by, as a result of climate change, rising tides and all of that? So
What's the answers again?
So more than double. So
It's got worse, yeah?
So
more than double.
So basically saying the number of deaths per year have doubled, have remained the same, or decreased by less than half.
By less than half. Okay, I'm going to either go for the last two, remain the same, B, or C, decrease but less than half.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm doing is I think I see a pattern emerging already on question 4 with this website that's showing everything is lovely and rosy and the United Nations are actually a beautiful organisation doing the best for us. So I'm going to go with the last one. They've decreased but less than half.
I'm going to say remain the same.
Okay, let's go. let's see what we got.
So you're right.
Okay.
It has decreased less than half. Clearly I'm thinking too. About 84% of people got this wrong, and I'm now one of them.
I mean, the answer though in that one is decreased but less than half. That kind of tells me that's what they want you to choose.
So it's decreased. It's decreased, but it says less than half. That's the thing. It's so where say 100% of the deaths from 100 years ago, it could have dropped down to about 60, 70.
Because of maybe we have more technology to warn people when a natural disaster will happen.
Absolutely.
And also the relief effort to be able to bring in provisions and stuff, again, is probably managed and ramped up in a lot more efficient way, right?
I think we'd hope so, but at the same time we still get those people in various pockets of the world where they can almost be. I'm thinking classic America, because we've all seen those videos where a hurricane hits and they're like, oh, we're fine, we'll just man out through this hurricane and stuff like that. And not to use a sort of gendered term there. Sorry, deal with it.
Don't you bring it up. Don't you start on gender neutralities and all these issues. That's for a podcast another time. Let's move on to question 5. I get your point. Question 5 then, Alex. Take it away.
Okay. How many people in the world cook using stoves that don't produce smoke?
Okay.
How many people in the world use stoves that don't produce smoke?
Yeah, this is a big one because it causes apparently some real problems, cancer, lung issues.
Yeah.
Go to, I guess, poorer countries and they use those coals and that, don't they, to burn through the house for cooking and stuff. So what's the answers?
20%,
right?
40%, or 60%.
I like these A to C's and not D's.
Makes it be easier.
I tell you what, I think you'd be surprised here. I know I've read some stuff that it's changing. It's either 20 or 40 for me.
Absolutely.
40 would be a lot, wouldn't it?
That's a lot of people.
There'd be a lot of burning going
40% of the world are using stoves that...
Yeah. Give off smoke.
Okay, hang on. So how many... hang on, let's reread the question. How many people in the world... you cook with stoves that don't produce smoke. Right. Sorry, so this is the key wording here, that don't produce smoke. So it must be around 60 then.
Well, then it's the top one then, 60. Yeah. Try to read the question correctly next time. Let's go with...
said don't.
Go to... Whoa. We'll have to rewind back. Okay, let's go with 60 on that one then. Let's flip it.
Yeah.
And it is,
right. Absolutely. Yeah, 77% of people got this wrong. Really? I think there's 77% of people who misread the question.
I was going to say like you, yeah, like we did. Okay, good. Yeah, drivel. Okay, so what we're saying is 60% of people are using combustibles that aren't producing smoke for their dinners and keeping themselves warm, things like this, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cooking.
Less people are sort of using those more primitive.
Okay. Question 6, please, for the final one in this category.
So, what share of the population in high-income countries like Germany and the USA live in extreme poverty with less than $2 per day.
Oh, whoa, so this goes back to our first question.
So now we're saying specifically for those high-income countries, what percentage of the population that are in those high-income countries live in extreme poverty?
Under $2 a day, yeah.
Less than 1%,
Yeah.
11%,
Yeah.
or 21%.
I mean, I want to say 11%.
Because it seems quite in the middle.
Yeah, but again,
I'm thinking high-income countries obviously have a larger population compared to the rest of the world. And I think when you add that up all collectively, when you sort of collect all that up, I could see it being less than 1% though.
Yeah, is it $2? Did they quote $2 a day?
Yeah, with less than $2 a day.
I mean, who owns $2 in America a day? Less than 1% here. I think I do have to say. I think there is. I know this website's about non-biasm and facts and stuff, but it's painting this very rosy. All these pictures here, they're all the best answers.
Absolutely, because when you say less than $2 a day, I mean that's basically you're living on the streets and you just get a couple of couple of quid just given to you, and that's it. But there's so much to it.
But there's not counting the blokes or the girls that go around earning $4 a day, is it?
Absolutely.
So
not.
what is it? Go on.
And also, would we say those who are living on benefits, who have just come out of that poverty, who are on benefits and almost on that sort of up, trying to turn their life around, would that not still count as poverty? I know this says extreme poverty though, so...
Yeah, but I just... Come on, it's just going to be under 1%, isn't it? It's
got to be.
Lovely and beautiful,
less than 1%.
Oh, how flowery. Well, I think we better... Researchers, send a message to what they call gapminder.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, gapminder.com and tell them we reckon that they've got an agenda. Okay,
that's a fair point.
It's the end.
You're right there.
It's the end of the agenda for this section, No Poverty. We'll be back with another pod where we'll focus on something else. Just China Jedi, people.
If you're an English-speaking teacher from anywhere in the world and you have a bachelor's degree but need an official and accredited teaching license to get a job, get a visa to teach abroad, or most importantly to learn all those things you wish you knew before you stood in front of 30-plus students, then reach now to Teach Now and secure a professional US District of Columbia license in as little as 9 months.
Online in no time, low cost, high quality, Teach Now. Get in the game. Immediately receive a $100 discount off your tuition by signing up to the Teach Now program via the link www.teach-now.edu/China Jedi.
May the smile be with you.